that as well. But I have another question.
Yeah.
Maybe this is like a little bit of a deviation, but it's still on topic. More about what Professor Sullivan was saying about the way papers tend to look pretty similar nowadays, right? I would say, or an alternative argument could be that with should evaluation in itself possibly change because AI has come, and maybe there's a different way of evaluating students that maybe you should think about as academics in designing this. Because if you think about a paper, traditional academic paper for class, right? You're given these substrates. You're told, these are like the frameworks you should work on or work with. This is what we've been taught in class. This is maybe like a case study you should look at. So it's really an algorithmic system, right? We could argue there's some creativity to it, but you've been told and limited by being given the information, instructions, and the rubric to tell you, look, this is what we want. This is what we're, this is what we're expecting.
Yeah.
So in that case, because it's very algorithmic, I'm not defending students here, but I'm just saying a lot of students then would be like, you know what, the AI can help me at least map out this thinking, and sort of the larger implication of that is a lot of these papers tend to be similar, right? But isn't that like a problem with we've designed our evaluation and academic experience in a way that still hasn't adapted to what AI has brought and is bringing? What do you
want to take that, or I can take it?
You can start.
I'll start.
I can also take something.
I mean, every creative product is dealing with constraints. The painter deals with the constraints of the canvas and the constraints of the possibilities of the paper. A musician deals with the constraints of the instruments and the notes, and we have to deal with constraints when we write, right? So, some of the constraints are, yes, there's a structure to it, and you should follow the structure, right? And in part of the structure, in this case, what we're talking about is APA referencing, yes, we want to build on others. So yes, there is something formulaic about that within that. And at the same time, there's enormous creativity that can occur. When I assign things to my students, I will say, here's what I want you to write about. I want you to write about high performance teams. Okay, well, that's pretty broad, right? But it's a constraint as well. I don't want you to write about, how do you do the best coding you could do? I want you to write about high-performance teams. So within that, what can people do? They can do all sorts of things. And I ask them to start with, what are you curious about in high-performance teams? And, my favorite paper that ever got turned in was a couple of years ago. A group of students wrote about the advent of emojis as the newest language on the planet and how emojis are used in the workplace. I'm like, that's great. Let's write about that.
How creative is that? That's amazing.
That's good.
And then they still have to follow the structure of the paper, right? So everything's constrained, and inside those constraints is where you can really generate creativity, right?
I think you also touch base on something that is a continuous conversation in academia, which is how do we evaluate students, right? And do we have a one standard answer? No. Should we? I don't think so. I think there is, and it depends on the topic, right? But, and funny enough, I hear it from students, oh, this is not that detailed, this rubric. Yes, just like evaluating high performance team, it's so broad, but then if you prompt it to AI, it's gonna give you a specific structure, which is square, right? And it's not as creative than if you use your brain or your imagination, your thinking, to make it sound unique, just like that student did. So we think that, with AI, we're going to have more specific, sometimes it's even broader type of topics, so that we can see what you do with it and where you go with it. And evaluations and the way that it's being evaluated, of course, it's being rethought. And I think that if you look at my courses or those pages, on course pages from April 2022 and you look at them today, they look very different in which how the assignments are structured as well. Because the faculty have been, at least at Hult, I can tell you, that they have been implementing changes to be able to work with a new age of AI. And we've been very quick adapting to AI and having students encourage them to use it and to teach them how to use it in the right way. And if you hear any discouragement, it's just because there's a lot of ways in which it's being used that will not serve you for your learning process. And that has been my experience at what I have seen with endless conversations with faculty and in groups or one-on-ones as well.
And Matt, it's a great question because AI is changing what we're capable of doing in an educational format. Mm-hmm. And so, we're not just, we can no longer just measure to knowledge accumulation. We can't just test how much more you know today than yesterday. With some part of what we have to do has to move into more competency-based. Based on what you know, what can you now do? How much more effective can you be than you were before? I don't think we've gotten there yet.
No.
And I think that's going to be, maybe the most important question for higher education and even primary and secondary education for the next 20 years.